The concept of this masculine guy as being the guy who's like buff and big and only plays sports and is like pushes around people, that is our like toxic, wounded, conditioning idea of masculinity that's come into us that says that, oh yeah, this is the only way a man should live and this is the only way a man should be. And the problem with that is that that is what we call hypermasculinity or toxic masculinity in my space or field, is where an individual who's not secure enough about their own security has to overcompensate for it in other ways, which ends up being like, someone who is either portraying themselves to be super tough, super big, super rich, super whatever. I mean, a lot of people get that just because they want to, but a lot of people are showing that off. It's because they're insecure about their own levels of masculinity. A true sense of masculinity is a quiet strength. Think about Bruce Lee, think about Buddha, think about so many powerful individuals, if we're talking about masculinity represented by men, who didn't need to go out and force their hand onto someone else, who just by the way they stood, just by their calm, quiet confidence, would be able to create a strong level of security for people. Now, masculinity is represented by some of the characteristics that we may know of, like security, stability, being grounded, um, strong decision making. And now, what happens is, and this is how it affects the feminine. This is so important for you guys to understand in relationships because, in my experience, personal experience, and in my experience of like when I've been working with people, if the masculine and the feminine, like if one is not represented in their direct characteristic, the other one suffers or just feels a huge lack of attraction drastically. So everybody wants to have good sex. Who wants to have good sex? Type it in the chat. I'm going to type that first and say, fuck yes, I want to have good sex. Thank you very much. And one of the requirements to having great sex is to have a great polar connection with who you're having sex with. Why? Because the opposing energy, like the positive, the negative, the yin and the yang, are what create that powerful dynamism. So if you are the feminine, and for example, you're with a masculine that's really weak within its own masculinity, that isn't like, oh, I'm not sure of who I am, I'm kind of indecisive, I'm kind of like aloof, yeah, sure, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll not. Or on the other end is like, don't fucking tell me what to do, don't push me around, don't try and make your own decisions. Both of those are going to create a suppression of true polarity and connection. You're going to feel like I'm kind of with this guy just because he makes me feel normal. Just because he's like, okay, maybe not really someone who's disrespecting me. But it doesn't add for that value of polarity and challenge. In fact, this is going to be really crazy. When you have, for the feminine, when you're with a strong masculine that makes you feel safe and loved, you want in the bedroom, you're open to being kind of scared, kind of being unsafe, being like dangerous, trying out different things, being kind of what is the word I'm looking for? Promiscuous in that sense with your partner. You're wanting to be adventurous, brave. You don't mind taking risks. You don't mind taking chances. Why? Because you feel a strong sense of safety with the partner you're with. I have seen in so many relationships that have been brought to me where a woman feels so scared sometimes about her man's touch or doesn't feel like she's getting enough sexual attention or doesn't feel sexually enough connected to them. And it's a huge part of that is because the masculine just does not know how to hold space for it, does not know how to provide that level of like security of saying, yes, no matter what you do, I will be in this space and I'll be able to hold this for you. I'm going to talk a lot about femininity in just a second, guys, but I want you to focus on this topic around masculinity because this affects women in relationships so much. So another way the weak masculine can identify is I talked about is in being indecisive. Someone who isn't really sure about their own decisions, their own choices, does not take accountability. This is a massive motherfucking one where a lot of men can't take accountability for either how they're making the environment feel, how they're making their partner show up, how they're like, imposing shame, judgment, etc. And so when they don't take responsibility for that, it makes the feminine feel like, how the fuck can I trust you? Like you're not even willing to take accountability for how you've shown up or not shown up, which means you're not really willing to improve or grow, right? If you don't see there's a lack of something, you won't want to create a solution to it. And so in that situation, the masculine starts to already show the feminine that, yeah, I'm not really going to take accountability for this. This isn't really my fucking problem. You're the fucking crazy one. You're the one who's like pushing or pulling too much. We all have to take accountability for sure, but a masculine individual, a strong masculine individual will recognize either as a leader, a partner in a relationship, either as a son, either as a husband or a father or a partner, will recognize where they need to take responsibility. What happens with a lot of men who are not willing to take responsibilities, they're still playing the mother-son scenario, the mother-son game, where they still think that they are the child and will forever just be a child of their mothers. And so they think it's easier to absolve themselves of responsibility. Why? Because they have someone to look out for them, they have a parent to take care of them. So that level of conditioning that they haven't grown out of, if they haven't had a healthy masculine of how to grow, healthy idea of how to grow their masculine, if they haven't come out of that level of conditioning, they will perpetuate in their relationships, which is why they will tend to attract women into their lives who they want to become their mothers. Mind blown, right? You're wondering, like, why the fuck am I attracting these boys who refuse to grow into men? Because they don't know how to. And what's kind of crazy about it is if the feminine in its own way has not really learned how to be a strong, true holding feminine, they will want to be the mother to this boy, to this like man child, so to speak, because that's what gives them a sense of value. Hey, and welcome to the Inner Yats YouTube page. If you like our content, make sure you click the like and the subscribe button so that you get more of these amazing videos that keep coming your way.